What up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of Minorly Important, the show where we cover minor league sports. I'm your host, Kevin Marlowe. I'm joined here by my co-host, Ryan Baker. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm pretty good, Kevin. I, just getting reacquainted with being home after being gone for Christmas and, just enjoyed a lot of time with family over the break.
Awesome. We're also joined here by Dylan Little. Dylan, how you doing?
Hey man, what's up? Not too much, man. Not too much. I'm doing well. That's what I meant to say. Anyway, so not a lot's going on. Again, like Ryan said here, just settling in after the holidays, getting ready for New Year's Eve coming up tomorrow, which will be fun.
Awesome. All right, and Colin Scholl is also joining us tonight. Colin, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Thank you for asking. Just kind of like everybody else, just getting back home from, spending the time with family, enjoying the holidays. The one bad part is I do have to work on New Year's Eve, but that's okay because I need the money anyways.
Awesome. Well, and then tonight, James couldn't join us, but we do have a special guest that we are bringing on our first interview. And I'd like to introduce Tim Bawmann, the team president of the Mad Ants. Tim, how are you doing, man?
Kevin, I'm blessed, my friend. It's nice to see you and some of my other Fort Wayne friends. So hope you guys are doing well.
We are. All right. So tonight, we're going to focus only on the G League because we've got a expert on the team or on the podcast with us tonight. So, Colin, do you have standings pulled up?
I do. All right. So the G League standings as of right now in the Eastern Conference. Number 1, we have Grand Rapids Gold at 2-0. At number 2, we have our very own Indiana Mad Ants at 2-0.
Let's go.
So
Awesome.
number 3 is Cleveland Charge 2-0. 4 Greensboro Swarm 2-0. And 5 Birmingham Squadron at 1-0. So they haven't played. They really haven't played the same amount of games. And then in the Western Conference, we have the San Diego Clippers at 2-0. Number 2, Stockton Kings at 2-0. Number 3, Santa Cruz Warriors 2-0. Number 4, Oklahoma City Blue 1-0. And the Mexico City Capitans at 5th at 1-1. So since the G League season just started, everybody's pretty neck and neck right now. So we can't really tell who's going to stand out from the rest of the pack.
Yep. All right. And then I would like to shout out friend of the podcast, Chris Taylor, for his 100th win. So shout out, Chris.
Good job, Chris.
Yeah, go Chris.
Yeah. And then, so tonight, like I said, we're going to focus primarily on the G League. And by that, we're going to let Tim kind of tell his story tonight. And we're going to ask some questions and get to peek behind the curtain of what it's like to be a president of a minor league sports team. So, real quick, Tim has worked for many teams, has some accolades, along with one of his stops was for the Lowell Spinners, where they not only won championships in their league, but Tim also has 3 World Series championship rings with the Boston Red Sox. But I'm going to let Tim go through and talk about his experience in all of that and what he's done. So Tim, where all has your journey brought you?
Yeah, Kevin, no, that's a good question. I grew up in Western Illinois. I grew up a diehard Cub fan. I'm old enough that when I would get home from high school, the games were all on during the day, right? So I'd turn on WGN TV and they'd be in the 5th or 6th inning. And I said, that sounds like that'd be something fun to do. Maybe I could try to do that for a living. So I went to college and got a degree in radio and television broadcasting from Wisconsin Platteville. And by the grace of God, landed my first job out of college with the Houston Astros down at their spring training complex in Kissimmee, Florida, which is where my baby girl, who's going to be turning 30 soon, was born. And was down there doing a little radio play-by-play, assistant GM, learning the business. And then after 3 years of doing that, the person that hired me left. And I think at the ripe age of like 27, I was running a spring training complex. And it was a blast and got a little burnt out. My wife and I had our first child, as I mentioned, in 1995, and that was the year of the major league strike. So there was a replacement spring training that we went through. Then we had a regular spring training. Then we had the minor league season. By the end of the year, I was kind of burnt out and took a year off and got back into the game in the Midwest League, ran the Quad City River Bandits, which was fun for me because I grew up in the Quad Cities. I grew up across the river in Rock Island, Illinois. I was there 97 through 2001 until the Mississippi River flooded us, and we all lost our jobs in 2001. Had a short stint down in Brevard County with the Montreal Expos the year Major League Baseball owned them. I was the director of marketing for them at their spring training complex, and then same role with the Brevard County Manatees. And then my best stop by far was out in Massachusetts. I ran the Lowell Spinners, which was a Class A team of the Boston Red Sox. Got there at the right time. We won the World Series in 4, 7, and 13. As the general manager of the team, had an amazing front office staff. We did a lot of really fun things. We've got a bobblehead that was nominated to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. We had Thomas the Tank Engine that ran train rides around the warning track. We shot a guy out of a cannon over the outfield wall for the first ever human home run.
That's awesome.
It was a blast. And now I landed in Indiana with the Mad Ants. As you guys know, we started in Fort Wayne. We thought we were going to get a new arena in Fort Wayne when they hired me in 2016. That thing kind of fell apart, never came back. And lo and behold, the city of Noblesville said, we'll build you one. And now I'm down in Noblesville. So that's a pretty brief recap of my 36, 37 years in the business.
Wow, that's incredible. I know that I've had the pleasure of working with you, as well as Dylan and Colin, and I will say this for all the listeners at home. Tim is one of the greatest bosses I've ever had, greatest coworkers I've ever had, and very thankful to continue to call him a friend. And he very much values his employees and isn't one of those bosses that will tell you, this is how we're going to do it. He likes to collaborate with his employees and ask their opinions. And Colin can attest, we kind of had a lot of freedom when we worked for the Mad Ants with our drum line. So, Tim, I know I've told you that before, but you are one of the best coworkers and bosses we've ever had. So, shout out to you and thank you.
I like to refer to you guys as teammates more than employees. We were all doing the same thing together. You guys just had a little bit of a different role. And, when we rolled out that drum line, that just added a great atmosphere to Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. You guys were a big part of what we did there.
Yes, sir.
We appreciated that opportunity. Tim, so you've moved around a lot. What is it like when you decide to move? How hard is that to just up and move your family and everything you're doing? How hard is it to settle into a new team and all of that stuff?
Yeah, the worst part early on in my career was moving my kids around because, they try to get settled into where they're at with friends and schools and that sort of thing. And then dad pops in and says, hey, pack your bags, we're moving. So that's a challenge. I've already referred to her a couple of times. My daughter was born in Kissimmee, and I moved her from Kissimmee to Rock Island, Illinois. And she was there for about 4 years. And then when she must have been about 6 to 8, we took that job down in Florida with the Brevard County Manatees. So she went from one school to another school. So in December of 2002, she was in one school. In January of 2003, she was in another school. Then we moved again in October of 2003. So she was in her third school in less than a year. And then the very next school year, she started in a different school. So, it's a challenge for kids. She was in second, third grade and moving all over the country and losing her friends. And that was very, very stressful on us. But I look at her as an adult today and she's fearless. She's not afraid to go anywhere or do anything. So there was a blessing behind that as well. And she and my Eli really got to experience some different parts of the country and I was just grateful that I was able to raise them out in New England, which was a really cool place to live. But when you're in this industry, that's what you sign up for. And you want to continue to advance your career. And a lot of times you need to advance your career. And by doing that, you've got to move. And I was always one to be willing to move. And, I'm lucky that my wife was one that said, okay, wherever you want to go, let's go. Because not all spouses will do that. In fact, when we relocated from Fort Wayne to Noblesville, I wanted to bring some of the staff with me to Noblesville, and they didn't want to move, and I get it, and that was the right decision for them and their families. But it's tough to uproot families and move them.
Yeah, no, and I totally get that. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, "Are you moving to Noblesville?" It's like I was a part-time employee. I'm not
Right.
I'm not moving. So, but yeah, no, and I know, Tim, like you with the Mad Ants, you don't necessarily deal with like player personnel. That's all Chris Taylor. But did you do any of that with any of the other teams and with some of the baseball teams you worked with?
Yeah, I did. When I was in New England, we actually started a wooden collegiate bat league. We named it the Futures Baseball League. We actually tried to buy a team and get into the New England Collegiate Baseball League, and they would not let us in. They wanted their league to be more pure baseball, and they knew that the owners of the owners wanted to get into the league, and they didn't want us to do any of that crazy stuff. They wanted it to be all about baseball. So we said, you know what, fine, we'll just start our own league. So we started our own league, and it grew from 4 teams the first year to 10 teams. I think they might be down about 8 or so now. But yeah, I hired the head coach, I hired the pitching coach, and that was fun. That was fun because when you're around the game long enough, you're certainly going to pick some things up, and you can learn the game a little bit. So it was fun to help those coaches kind of mold the roster. I mean, certainly they did 99.9% of it. I would just say, look, just get as many local kids as you can, because as a business guy, you want to try to put some fannies in the seats, and that was fun. We won a championship year. We repeated the second year, and then we won again the year that I left. So that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. That's awesome. How hard is it to like look and put a team together that's not only going to win, but then like you said, from a marketing standpoint of local kids that would put butts in the seats and stuff like that? How hard is that to balance that?
Yeah, it's tough because there's a battle that goes on between the business side and the basketball or the baseball operation side, because really their job is to develop talent that can either get to Major League Baseball or could get to the NBA. And on the business side, I'm responsible for the numbers, right? So if I can get, if I could get all of the IU Hoosier players that I could get on the Mad Ants team, I'd love it, because I know there's such a great following for those guys. But if you put yourself in the shoes of Chris Taylor, you put all those guys on your roster, you're probably not going to compete as well against some of the other teams. So there's kind of that tussle back and forth. And thankfully Chris gets it, and we've had a couple of players that are fairly local play for us before. I think you remember DJ McCall played for us.
Yep.
And helped us a little bit. And then, the last couple of years, we've had a young man by the name of Kyle Mangus. Kyle is from Warsaw, and he played at Indiana Wesleyan, and he's been one of the stars, but he's a good draw for us.
Nice. Well, I also saw that you had Caitlin Clark in the seats the other night, so you're starting to pull some Pacers and Fever players over too. How was that?
Yeah, that's the difference between us being in Fort Wayne and being down here in the Indy area, is that when there's an off night, basketball is in all of those guys' blood. So, Caitlin, she's in town. She's not playing this winter. A lot of her teammates are playing in Europe or playing in that 3-on-3 league. And, she and her boyfriend were looking for something to do, and they came out to the game, and, people left them alone. They kind of sat, in an isolated corner, but she just wanted to watch some good basketball. And, our general manager for the Pacers, Tab Buchanan, was at our game on Saturday night. We've had Obi Toppin's been in the game. Tyrese was at a game last year. So you're that close, not only do the players become friends with the Pacers and the Fever, but they want to come watch them play. And it's cool for the fans to see those people in the seats.
That's awesome. I know we got lucky in Fort Wayne a couple times. We had Larry Bird come down, and we had John Stockton my last season, which was really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Two legends
That
right
was-
there, and you just see them walk past you.
Yeah. It was like,
And
Yeah,
I remember walking. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
the cool thing about John was, and you guys saw him, you would never know that guy was a Hall of Fame ball player. I mean, he just was
Oh no.
Joe, just kind of blended right into the crowd. You know, I think he's what, 5'10"? He's not even 6 foot. But you know, they're famer sitting elbow to elbow with people in the seats that had no idea who he was.
Well, I remember that I hadn't seen him there, and I walked up because I think it was Chris's birthday, and I went up to go tell him happy birthday, or if it wasn't his birthday, I went up to tell him good game because we won, and standing there was John. And like Chris goes, "Hey, by the way, this is John Stockton." "Oh, hi, nice to meet you, John." Played it real professional, but in my head, I'm going, "Holy crap, that's the guy that like made me believe as a little kid I could be in the NBA, even though I'm not that tall." Like, and it was just like it was super cool. He was super down to earth too, and I mean that's just kind of cool when people like that show up in a minor league sports game. Like it's super cool. So, but yeah, what are some of your best stories you've got from being in minor league sports?
Well, my first season, I was in Kissimmee, and look, I grew up a Cub fan, so really all I did is I followed the Chicago Cubs, and I didn't really follow other teams. So when I got hired by the Astros in November of 1988, and I showed up for my first spring training, I walked into the clubhouse, and there's this little guy sitting in the corner, and his name happens to be Yogi Berra, and I had no idea that Yogi was a bench coach for the Astros. So that was enlightening, and that was fun for me. And you know, another fun thing for me was Luis Gonzalez. You guys may remember him if you're a baseball fan. Louis played for us with the Osceola Astros my second year, and he came out of Mississippi State with a shoulder injury. So he was my color commentator in the booth for the first half of the season. So I really got to know him very well. And then you flash forward to, I think it was 2001, he has the game-winning hit in the World Series off arguably the best closer in the history of baseball. And that following year, I was at Coors Field with my nephew because my brother lived in Denver, and they happened to be playing the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I yell, hey, Gonzo. This is early, you know when to get there, right? When you can get the attention of the player. Got there right as the gates open, and they were out there taking BP. And I could see he looked around like, who in the world is yelling Gonzo at me in Denver, Colorado? And he knew it was me, and he kind of pointed down to the left field line for us to go down there. And we went down there, and my nephew was, I think he was 12 at the time, was just in heaven. Louis was telling us about the game-winning hit, and you know, those things are priceless. And I've just been so blessed to be able to do something like this my whole life. I had no idea what I was doing when I got into it. There's a lot of luck that's been involved, and certainly worked with a lot of great people to get where I am.
Yeah. Well, we can echo that because I know it was really cool during my career there because I would always get there early and to kind of set up and prepare. And then after I was done with that, there were times where I'd sit there and talk to like either one of the coaches, Gansey or Hankins or Chris during shoot around while I was there. And that was always fun to just like everybody come say hi. And the fact that that's one thing about minor league sports that I think is cool is that even the game day operations, front office staff, and the like whatever sport you're in, that basketball ops in our case, we're all part of like a tight knit family.
It is. It really is like a family, and it's a job unlike most other professions out there, except for if you're a doctor or you're in the medical field. You know, you guys were talking. Colin said he's got to work a half day tomorrow. You know, we play a game on New Year's Day. We've played on Super Bowl Sunday. when I was in baseball, I played on Independence Day. You play on Saturdays, you play on Sundays. When I was in baseball, I had 10-game homestands. And so it's grind. It really is a grind. But then when you sit and look back at, I get to do this for a living and I get to meet all these guys. Like Leon Durham was my favorite player as a Cub. And years later, he comes through the New York Penn League as a coach, and I got to meet Leon Durham. And, I don't know if you guys remember the name Bill Buckner. You probably remember him from when he was with the Red Sox, but he was one of my favorite players. Played for the Cubs too, and I got a chance to meet him and Larry Dawson and Fergie Jenkins, and it's just been and Jim Rice. It's just been a cool ride.
Yeah.
So Tim, I know you've mentioned you've moved around a lot as far as jobs. So how do you find these jobs? Do they come to you or do you go looking for those positions?
Yeah, I know this kind of goes back to the family, right? It's such a small industry that, I've been fortunate that almost all of the positions that I've moved around to have been from somebody I know in the industry. Now, my first job, I went to a seminar and got hired right out of school. So that was a lucky break. And then my second job, the Quad City River Bandits, this was March of 1997. They let their general manager go, and opening day was 3 weeks later. And so I got a phone call in Kissimmee, Florida on a Sunday night, and the owner was Rick Holtzman, and Rick said, "Hey, Roger Wexelberg suggested I give you a call. I need a general manager, and he said that you're from the Quad Cities. Do you want the job?" And that's how I ended up in the Quad Cities.
Nice.
And then, the ballpark flooded, and we were out of a job for a year. I actually sold cars for a year, and in 2003, I ended up in Brevard County through a friend. And then as soon as I got down there, I no sooner got down there than John Smith, an old friend of mine, called and said, "Hey, I'm going to be leaving the Lowell Spinners to go run the New Hampshire Fisher Cats. I want you to come take my place." So the owners flew me and my wife up, and we met them, and they offered me the job on the spot. And then my last stop, I actually had a recruiter reach out to me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about basketball?" And I said, "No, but it's the same business, right? You have to sell advertising, you have to sell tickets, you have to do customer service, you have to do promotions." And that's how I ended up in Indiana. And really the truth of it is the Chicago Bulls were more prevalent in that than anything, because I had interviewed with them and did not get that job. And the Pacers were looking for. Right. Yeah. And, you look back on it now, and I'm glad I didn't go there, because I don't, living in a great big city like that would have been just too much for me. But anyway, the Pacers called them and said, "Hey, you just went through this team president search. Who is your next best candidate?" And they said it was Tim Bawmann. And so the Pacers called me, and they flew me to Indy, and they offered me the job. So that's how I ended up in Indianapolis with the Pacers, and I'm grateful that it worked out that way, because it's such an amazing organization.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that. I remember our first meeting. Me and our other representative that came to talk to you about starting a drum line came in like button-up shirts and suit jackets, and everybody else was in quarter zips, and we felt very overdressed, but thankfully the meeting apparently went well, because we were there for, I think, over 7 years.
Yeah, no, I remember that meeting very well, and I remember the young man that was with you as well. And like I said, I mean, look, we're in the entertainment industry as much as we're in the professional sports industry, and I like to create the wow effect. And my motto is always, every night is opening night, and having a drum line to fill in the dead space. Look, you guys know we played in a 12,000 seat building. That is way too big for an NBA G League team to be playing in. So to be able to have a drum line to help create the atmosphere in that cavernous building that we played in was as important as anything. And I'm grateful that we had a dance team that did an amazing job. And we had the kids zone behind the baskets for the kids to get up and do stuff, and we gave things away, and it was a fun ride while we were there, and we're going to keep that thing going in Noblesville in the right size building. We're going to be in a brand new facility. We're going to be the number one tenant. We're not going to get stuck with bad dates like we got stuck in Fort Wayne. And Kevin, you're familiar with the Lowell success we had. I really think we're going to do the same thing in Noblesville.
Awesome. Well, I do want to ask, because we're going to start a YouTube section of where we get to tour minor league sports facilities. So we would love to come out and check it out once you got it done.
Absolutely. You guys gotta come check out. This is the first ever G League arena specifically being built for a G League team. So there are a lot of out there that are watching what we're doing and then how can they improve on it. So I think you'll see some other teams try to get some deals done as well.
Yeah. Well, it's not the first time somebody's copied the Mad Ants with something cool they've done. I don't know how many times, shortly after we announced our existence, Grand Rapids announced that they were starting a drum line. And then my last season with you guys, Stockton was interested in starting one as well. And we're talking to us about how we did it. And so...
Weren't we the first? We were the first, right?
Yes, we were the first G League drum line.
That's so cool to say. That's awesome.
I know I'm biased, but the best.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Tim, thank you for saying yes to that, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys had the vision. I mean, you came in with a good business plan and it made sense. And the fact that you guys worked at Sweetwater Sound and were able to help us get, some equipment, which is not inexpensive, but with your connection helped us really kind of build that thing out faster than any other team could do. And I try to copycat us. I mean, that means you're doing something right.
Right.
Yep. No, I mean, big shout out to Sweetwater, Pearl, Remo, Innovative Percussion, and Zildjian that were our sponsors that helped us out. Those are big name brands in that area, and Sweetwater was key in helping that get going. But it was really, really thanks to you that you gave us the freedom to do some stuff that was not questionable, but we got to push the limits. So it was a...
You remember you pushed the limit at Trine University, didn't the officials try to throw you?
You know what, Tim? I was going to ask that, and I already knew it was going to come up in the conversation.
All right, Colin, so you were already talking about this with Tim on the podcast. So you tell the story and paint the picture.
All right, so all of us show up to Trine University. We're ready to have a great game. We're playing against Greensboro. And as soon as the game starts, we have our glass up. We got all the drums ready to go. And then as soon as we start playing, referee or the coach of the Greensboro Swarm talks to the referee. And the referee comes to us. And he said, "Hey, you guys can't play that loud." And we're just like, huh? What?
What?
And so the referee goes away. And then Kevin's like, "Okay, guys, play at 6 inches." So we play at 6 inches. Which means play softer.
Just big.
Yeah. And so we play, and then the referee comes back again. He said, "Hey, I told you guys, keep it down." And then Kevin's like, "Okay, guys, play it 3 inches, barely touch the drum head." So we do. And then after that, it wasn't the referee that came back. It was our head of security. Was it not? Yeah. And he said, and he was not happy. He said, "You guys are going to get kicked out if you don't start playing softer." And we're just like, "They're drums. How can we play soft?"
They changed from the first time they came and talked to me about playing softer to what we were playing was not within the rules because we were playing actual music. And I was like, what? We're playing rhythms. We don't have like a full keyboard here. We can't play pitched. And I mean, granted, toms and bass drums were pitched, but we couldn't play legitimate like songs. And it just kept going back and forth, and he kept changing what he said, and to the point where we did not play the rest of the game after we played our halftime show because I got threatened with a technical foul and an ejection. I will never forget that.
It was the stinking Greensboro team. You guys were so close to their bench. The coach really put up a stink. But the reality is there are no rules against what you guys were doing. And they basically created this rule. And look, I was upset because one of the things I wanted to do is take our show on the road like that. That's why we went to Trine. I wanted to build an audience up in Goal, and I wanted to play a game at Grace. And so my whole plan was to play some geographical locations and bring you guys with. And they shut down the drum line, which is one of the biggest parts of our show. So, yeah, I mean, fans missed out on some of the best entertainment that we brought up to Angola because of this bozo that couldn't stand the music that was too loud.
The best part was Coach Gansey after the game goes, "Why'd you guys stop playing?" And I told him the story, and he goes, "That's bull." And I was just like, so a few games later in that season, not the head official, but one of the other officials was was the head official at one of our home games. And he came over, and this is after Tim, you and I dug through the rule book and like looked through it and made sure that everything was, we were doing everything the up and up. And he walked over to our head of security and asked and pointed over to us. And I'm sitting there. I look, Colin and Dylan, you were both on that line. I look and I'm like, son of a gun. Like,
Here we go.
And I shook my head and I walked over because I saw him go point to me or point over to us and then make like a drumming motion. And I'm like, great, this is going again. And I walked over to our head of security. He goes, "No, I told him you looked at the rule book and there is no such rule." And he said, "Okay," and went back about his business. And that shut the whole thing down.
Well, let's just say we let Greensboro hear it the next home game they were at.
Oh,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. No.
Good times.
We would make enemies with the other team.
Hey, it's all fair game, right? I mean, look what the Warriors are doing in their brand new arena. I mean, they've got this whole fan section behind one of the baskets that just gives the opposing team as much guff as they can shooting free throws. So, I think that some of those major league teams see what we're doing here at the minor league level and say, well, man, if they can do it, we can do it too.
Right.
Well, not everybody had a missed free throw gong. So
that we had a gong. That's a thing.
We got to bring
we hit. Go ahead, Colin.
Oh, I was gonna say, could you imagine if they were gonna let us have a 36-inch gong?
That was so cool.
Yeah.
That was the original until I had to cut the. It wasn't necessarily the gong that was too expensive. It was the stand for it.
Oh yeah.
We were gonna upgrade. Like that was in the future, but maybe some other day.
Yeah, you got
one day.
Got to figure out a way to do some sort of reunion and have you come perform down in Noblesville.
Please.
I'm game.
That would be
cool.
Game.
I would be there in a heartbeat. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. So
I come too.
No, that'd be.
And we'll just take
Ryan.
Ryan can play triangle.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
Ryan has always wanted to play triangle.
Yeah. No, I remember, Tim, I don't know if you were aware, but Dylan got a charge assistant coach to break a clipboard one time. I don't know if
good time.
You guys used to rile those guys. Fun to watch because they get so worked up. What was the burger thing that you guys panted to?
Oh, hot juicy burgers.
Juicy burgers.
Yep. We can get we can get all the chants going down in Noblesville for you.
Yeah.
Fried rice.
I like when you guys did do that. That
was me. Yeah.
Yep.
You can
and then one of the other great ones is when somebody would miss the first free throw, and then we'd all start chanting, "It's all your fault" afterwards. That kind of came about when when one guy literally lost their team the game, and he missed a free throw that was very important because they were down by 3 with like 13 seconds left or something like that, and he missed the first free throw, and we all started chanting, "It's all your fault, it's all your fault," and he missed the second free throw and really choked it.
I actually remember asking you if that was crossing the line, and you were like, "Nope, let's do it."
Nope.
Yeah, I think we danced on the line.
We never crossed it.
Yeah.
We would walk right up to it, and
Yeah.
peer right over it.
Oh goodness. No, I've
Very.
went home not being able to talk many a night because of all the screaming. So, man, good
Yeah,
times.
Oh,
but
thank you for putting us next to their bench, Tim. That was
I know,
great.
right? Perfect
that
placement.
first season was a merry-go-round of where we were going, but we finally found our home.
Yeah, we got where to put you, and then it happened to end up right by the visiting team bench, which couldn't have been the best place to be. I mean, that was perfect.
It was.
I remember the meeting in your office where you're like, "Hey, how do you feel about being next to their bench?" And I don't think you finished your sentence before I said yes.
Oh goodness.
We had so much
I also
interaction
remember-
from those guys. It was great.
Oh,
Good times.
we got what, Dylan, 2 players fined for what they said to us in response to what you said to them.
One guy told
As far
me
as
to
what-
suck his D, and I was like, "No, thank you, sir."
Then there
was
were
fun.
some homophobic slurs that were said about some of our people.
Yeah.
And I was told by our head of security before I could file the complaint that he had already done that, and then later he told me that they had received fines. So
As well they should have.
Yeah. All I
It
said
was,
is you're bad at your job, man. You don't need to get too bent out of shape. Goodness me.
Right.
yeah, no. So what is the most challenging part about your job?
It's probably, well, that's a good question. You know, obviously, when we get into Noblesville, there are going to be some pretty big financial goals for us. And this is a brand new market. You know, I've only lived here for 2 months. So, you know, that's going to be a big challenge, trying to figure out the market and who wants to be a big. We had some great partners in Fort Wayne. You know, Sweetwater was a good partner, and Lutheran Network was a big partner of ours. I need to find those here, so I'm doing what I can to get out in the community and meet people and make that work. But you know, the other thing too is just creating the atmosphere that I've always said: if I can get you in the building one time, I got you. So we got to figure out a way to get them in the building like we couldn't really do all the time up in Fort Wayne. I got to figure out how do we get them in the building just one time to sample our product, because when we do, we got them. So we got to come up with a great promotional schedule. And, you know, too, I think the first year in a new building, the operations team, you know, hopefully they'll put a winning team on the floor, and it'll just be a slam dunk all around.
Awesome. You guys were, I mean, the Mad Ants were really good with helping out other local teams. So like you and the Tin Caps were like worked together a lot, and I think you guys even did a Fort Wayne Spacemen, the junior hockey team here in town, did that. Are you guys working with the Fuel and like the Indians and stuff like that in Indy?
Actually, yeah, we've already had conversations with them. You know, I've had more luck with the Indy Fuel than I did with the hockey team in Fort Wayne that I won't mention by name. But yeah, I've reached out to the Indy Fuel, and you know, we're gonna have lunch together. They ironically moved into a brand new facility too, which is about 10 minutes away from our new facility. And they've also got an arena football league team in there, and they've got a volleyball team in there. And look, we're all in the same business together, so we all should work together, right? I mean, there's enough there are people in the community to go around for everybody. So yeah, we're going to work with whoever. I'd love to do an Indians night and do a theme jersey, and also a Fuel night and do a theme jersey with them. So I just feel like you should work with everybody, and they're your brothers and sisters in the same industry. And it's to the benefit of the fans too, right? I mean, if the fans see the bickering between the professional teams in town, that doesn't do anybody any good.
No.
Yeah, Tim, I have your, I share your, I guess your problems you had with the communication with other programs. You know, I coach high school sports, and we have one football field for, you know, it's a turf multi-purpose field, and we have football teams, soccer teams, flag football teams, everyone trying to use one facility. So I see where you're coming from as far as, you know, being able to work with other teams and make everything smooth sailing.
Yeah,
Hard.
it only benefits everybody. I mean, you're hurting the athletes too, right? When there's all that bickering going on, and who gets to get here first, and I hate that. I don't know what movie it was in, but wasn't there a line in a movie that said, "Can't we all just get along?" And that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we're going to do down here in Noblesville.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. I do know that for us, when we were working with you guys, sharing a building with another popular minor league sports team, it was difficult. I assume you're looking very much forward to not having to share a building.
I am, but you know what? I'm also hoping that, we can get some other events in the building, because 24 out of 365 days is not enough for that building to be sustainable. So
Right.
hoping that we can, you guys have had the Division III tournament down there. I hope that the arena management team will do all they can to put other events in there. It's probably too small for like even high school graduations, but maybe we could do some regional basketball games and tournaments, and heck, let's set up a bunch of pickleball courts in there and do a pickleball tournament. So
Yeah.
we got to keep the building as busy as we can. The nice thing is we're the number one tenant, and we finally have our very own locker room that's branded just like the hockey team did in Fort Wayne, and we don't have to move out every night. It's our space, and we get to stay in that space, and that's a big deal for us.
Well, I mean, even for the basketball operations staff, not having to tear down the lockers every night, because in Fort Wayne, you were the visiting hockey team's locker room was the home locker room, and so you would have to tear that down, tear like nameplates and jerseys down and all of that stuff before they had a hockey game there, and it's frustrating for a home team to not have a space of their own.
A lot of work.
It was a challenge, and thankfully we don't have to do that challenge anymore, and we get our own space, and we get to be number one for a change.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So Tim, I coach Unified Sports, and I remember, gosh, this was probably pre-COVID. We had a basketball tournament on the Mad Ants court. The Unified programs did in the Fort Wayne area. I think that would be really cool to pull out down in Noblesville, Fishers area as well.
Are you still doing that? Because we need to talk offline then and see what we can do about
Hey.
Yeah. So I coach Unified Sports, and I'm also the Area 3 competition director for Special Olympics Indiana. So
yeah, I know those guys well. So, yeah, anything we can do to fill up that building, let's see what we can do to make it happen.
All right. Yeah, we'll definitely get together and throw some ideas at you.
I will say one of the best parts about being part of the Drumline was you allowing us to take our equipment to a local high school to play for the Special Olympics players. That was the best.
Yeah, you were great.
Which was coached by Ryan's wife.
Yes.
At the school that Ryan teaches at. So.
Well, that's cool that you guys did that, because you took time out of your personal schedule to go do that, and that was nice that you did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, no, we all appreciated you guys coming down. Or coming, I should say coming up, because it was north.
Yeah, I was gonna say put that down, but yeah.
One time, and Tim, now that we're not employed, I feel comfortable telling you this. We went to go pick up our equipment for that. We walked in, and Disney on Ice was not going on. And we didn't know the restrictions with Disney on Ice. We walked up to the backstage door, and Disney on Ice let us in to pick up our equipment. Nobody said a word. They let us walk back. We went back, we grabbed our stuff, and we left. We come back to drop it off, and the head of security for the Coliseum was like, what?
Yeah, sometimes they've got tight security.
They were just like, we could have been fine. We're like, well, Disney let us in, so
yeah,
but it was, like I said, that was a funny story that They were like, "What are you doing?" Oh, there were several times that a concert was going on, and I would walk in to go get equipment.
Yeah.
And I would tell them what I'm there to do, and security would let me in. And one guy's like, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here." And I'm like, "I am."
You just let me in. Like, what do you
One
mean?
of the biggest concerts. One of the biggest concerts where we had to go and get our stuff was probably the Paul McCartney.
No,
Yeah.
we didn't. No, everybody's badge was shut off for that one. We did not get in. I forget what we did, but we did not get into that one.
Somehow we got him. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but-
somehow we got
We
it.
might have planned ahead of time and gone in and got them and taken them home, but everybody's was shut off for that. Nobody was allowed in the building for that. But it was fun. There were some fun times where we pushed the limits and never went over them. So.
Mhm.
Name of the
Like I
game.
said earlier, we literally stared across the line or right down it.
Yep.
Oh goodness.
All right, Tim. What was your favorite thing that we did?
I just love how you got under the skin of the visiting team. I mean, just to sit and watch it from the floor, just watching players turn and look at you guys, and the coach look at you guys, and yeah, you just really helped create that home court advantage because you really did all the things that you would say and do, and you would get up in, and once you get in the athlete's head, you've got an advantage on them, and I think we had a pretty good home record, and part of that is the atmosphere that was created.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I brought a lot of that over just from being in the pep band at IPFW. We did a lot of that at IPFW and like all those cheers that we were doing. So I remember when we were up, I don't even know where we were the first game. And it was like my first game to play, and like everybody was super quiet. And then there was a foul or something. And I just screamed, "You can't do that!" And everybody looked at me like, "Who's this quiet kid? And where'd he come from?" Like, yeah, it was good times.
Dylan definitely brought most of the energy to every game.
Yep.
Good times.
The other good thing was when I decided to pull up the G League app and look at live stats of what certain guys' free throw percentages were live in the game and be like, "You are currently 3 for 10. You are failing. You need to do better if you want to go to the NBA."
Oh, I love calling out. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
I got called expletives several times by opposing players.
I loved calling out players who were playing like absolute garbage and they were wearing these super expensive Kyrie Irving shoes. I said those shoes don't make you better.
Man, I enjoyed every minute of it. Like it was a lot of fun, and I remember it's just a fun family setting. Like, I mean, one time the basketball operations staff invited us to a Super Bowl party, and I will not forget walking in there. And this is before Hankins was coach. This is when Gansey was coach, and we were playing Super Bowl squares where you put like a $5 or $1 in on this square, and I won one of the quarters. But then Gansey was like, "Oh, Kev, I told you the wrong thing. I flipped the two scores. I actually won." And Tom Hankins from across the room hadn't said a thing all night. Goes, "Steve, you make too much money. You should let him have it."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Tim, have you
the fact that
sorry, I didn't know if you were done or
Go
yet.
ahead.
Kev, go ahead.
No,
Oh,
you're good.
Have you ever besides the point to where we had to move away from like bands because we were too loud for them, which is why we got moved in the first place, has anybody ever complained about like the drum line being, annoying? Like, has anybody from the away team ever talked to you about us at all?
No, I think they would just vent directly to you guys. They knew they were fighting a losing battle. So no, I mean, I never, not one time did I have a call from the league office saying you need to have those guys tone it down. So no, you were just causing chaos at the moment, and then once the moment was over, it was over.
Yep, it was strictly professional after that.
Right.
Okay.
Tim, do you remember? Sorry, I was gonna say, do you remember that one time when I yelled "sit down, bench," and you happened to be standing right next to me? You remember that? And everybody was like, "What did he say?" Say again, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's a rule. They're supposed to sit down because teams now are getting fined for that, for standing up.
Are they really?
In the way of, because look, they're on the floor, right? So some of the most expensive seats in the facility are down on the floor, and if you got players standing up in front of you, it doesn't make those people very happy. So they actually get fined.
Right.
Yeah. I remember you doing that. You were fearless. You're fearless, man. They might have been 6 or 7 feet taller than you, but you were fearless.
Right, yeah. Well, I figure if they want to throw away their career by coming and attacking me, I will take the punch. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. Cool.
Somebody's got to do
it. Right. No, I just remember at least one time a guy started walking towards us, and then one of the teammates had to grab him and pull him. I don't remember what team it was, but he actually started coming towards us, and I'm like, oh god, maybe I should stop. What's going on here?
Yeah.
There was one time, Dylan, where literally you yelled at a guy about how bad he was doing. He stood up, puffed his chest out like he was going to come at you, and you just went, patted your chest like, are you really going to ruin? It said, are you going to ruin your career coming after me? And he sheepishly turned away and sat back down and backed off.
Mm-hmm.
For when I had the whole bench rolling because I was making fun of the way they were clapping and not clapping loud enough. Your clap, I literally called him and I said, your claps are weak. And the entire bench just.
Still say one of the best arena environments was when the Mad Ants came back from being 34 down to the Canton Charge. Goodness. That was one of the greatest atmospheres I have ever been 100%. A part of. And Tim, you hooked us up several times with being able to go down to Indy, and we got to see some cool moments there. But that was probably my favorite basketball moment ever, is coming back from 34 down and giving the Canton bench the old Reggie Miller choke symbol as they walked off the floor.
I was so disgusted during that game that I went back to the team room because I couldn't stand to watch any more of it. Because if I remember correctly, there was a big crowd, and the last thing you want to have when you have a big crowd is your team to stink on the floor. Right. And so we've got this huge crowd. I'm thinking about all these people not wanting to come back because our team's down by 34 points, and what a horrible game it was. So I'm back in the team room, and all of a sudden I hear our PA announcer just 3 times in a row go, Daxter Miles for 3, Daxter Miles for 3, Daxter Miles for 3. And I'm like, I got to go see what's going on. I think I went in the team room. I think we were down 34-35. By the time I came out, it was 14 points. I mean, we flipped the switch that quick. That was a fun game.
It was 34 in the third quarter. I remember that vividly because I had you allowed us to invite our friends and family with tickets, and I remember I had a buddy was like, oh, I've always wanted to go to a Mad Ants game, and I had the same thought you did. Dang, I really picked a great one for you to come to. And he was sitting right behind the box seat, so he had fantastic seats. And I walked up to him, I'm like, man, sorry I picked this. He's like, oh, no, it's really fun. And then he got to witness the comeback, and he texted me, he's like, oh, my gosh, I want to come back to more games. And that was a lot of fun.
That's where I get goosebumps. As an operator, my goosebumps come from when they used to come from when we would score the first run of the game, and the fans have they stand and cheer, and I get goosebumps when the crowd gets into it, because that what you've done to get people in the building and for them to have a good time is the reward. And we had a moment like that on Saturday night. We were playing in one of our theme nights. And you guys have heard, obviously, of the Japanese Steph Curry. Well, he's on our team. We have Keisei Tominaga, who played at Nebraska. And he hasn't been playing much this year, but he came in. We were up 20, 25 most of the game, and he got in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game. And You could tell that the crowd wanted him to come in, and as he got announced, they all stood and cheered, and the team found a way to get him a shot, and he got a contested 3-point shot, and the whole place went bananas. And, that's fun. That's the fun stuff for me.
I remember watching him play in the Nebraska uniform. The dude can play. He is really good.
Yeah.
He's a good kid, too.
Yeah. I remember, and I told this story on episode 1 when we were talking about why minor league sports has impacted us and stuff. And I told a story of when I was really small and I had just gotten diagnosed with diabetes, and we celebrated my birthday at the Wizards, which are now the Tin Caps. And I kept getting pushed out of the way for an autograph by a player pushed out of the way by the other kids. And dude saw it and reached over. His name was Tim Kostick, and he reached over, told all the kids that they were being mean to me, and signed my ball, the last one, handed it back, and then told me to wait by the fence, and then had his dad bring me a bat out that he had broken during batting practice. And that stuck with me forever. So when you gave us the opportunity, I tried to do that for fans with broken sticks and signed drum heads and all sorts, all of that stuff. We tried to do that and make a difference for some fans. And I thank you for that opportunity.
And, I didn't know that that's why you did it. That's a cool story. And, I would stand out up front as people left, and most nights if we won, you guys were out there. But just to see the smile on the faces when you had given somebody a stick or the drum head, that's worth the price of admission right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And also letting the kids play on our drums too. That was really cool.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was always
There
fun.
were several times we had to police that and be like, hey guys, we need to go home.
Yeah, I want to go bed. I'm tired.
You right?
Yeah, I never once got a drumstick.
Especially.
Well,
all right.
How many games did you go to?
How many Mad Ants games?
Yeah, I went to a few. Colin would always give me tickets, so I would go to a few a year.
Yeah.
Well, I blame Colin.
Yeah.
How old are you though, Ryan?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. Like, I don't know. Too old. Too old, I guess.
Man.
Kevin, I remember when you gave that broken stick to Daxter Miles Jr. after he hit all those threes and they came back and won the game.
Tim, do you still have the rally mallet?
I don't know. Probably because I moved, right? I can't find half the stuff right now, but I might have it somewhere.
Yeah.
We had a bass drum mallet, and for those of you that are in the marching world, bass drum mallet should not break. And we were down by not nearly the 34 point, but we were down by a lot, and we broke a mallet. And when that mallet broke, it spun another big comeback. And that was, so we presented it to Tim, and for a while it was in his office until the office moved. And it was dubbed the Rally Mallet.
Yeah.
It was, Innovative Percussion loved that because it was one of theirs, and they shared that tweet and all sorts of stuff. But it was, fun little things like that. Working with you guys was always a great time. So, we, again, thank you for that. But what does minor league sports mean to you?
A lot of people have asked me, throughout the course of my career, what's your next move? Do you ever want to work in Major League Baseball? Do you ever want to work in the NBA, the NFL? And there's a reason why I've stayed at this level my whole life, and it's because it's so pure. The kids are trying to get there. They're trying to make a Major League Baseball roster, and they're trying to make an NBA roster. And the other thing too is, I can touch everything. When I was in baseball, you got to go out and pull the tarp, or if the concession lines are too big, you jump in and you start wrapping hot dogs or pop popcorn or pour a beer or go cut the grass before the game starts. You get to do a little bit of everything. And I have found, and I've been in this business long enough to know this is true, when you get to the next level, you're very specialized. You're hired to do a particular job, and that's pretty much where you stay in your lane. I don't want to stay in my lane. I want to do all kinds of different stuff. I want to greet fans as they come in, and I want to, do rebounds with the players when they do shoot arounds, and I want to get in the bounce house and bounce around, that kind of stuff. And it's been an amazing. I never thought I would last this long, and the experiences that I've had, and my kids have had, and my wife has had, I couldn't be more grateful. And I try to pass that stuff on now to whoever I can. And I'm kind of at the tail end of my career, and if I can create a nice experience for some people that I meet here in Noblesville, I did that Saturday night. I met the gentleman who runs the Sherwin-Williams, because I've been painting rooms in the house, and I happened to have a Mad Ants hat on, and I couldn't believe that he knew who we were. He's, oh yeah, and he started rattling off all of the players, and I said, well, why don't you come to one of our games? I'll put you down on the floor. And he's like, are you serious? And so he was at the game on Saturday night, and I put his wife and him right at center court, and just watching them jump up and smile and just create that experience that a lot of people don't get. That's what I love to be able to do.
Awesome.
Well, to attest to that, when we got, we were working with Sweetwater to re-up our last season, and my boss had helped get us that. He's now been promoted even further up the chain and is now my boss again, even though I've changed positions there. And he still will talk to me about, man, that was so much fun when you got me courtside seats. And so it's still making that impact on them. And you did that in Fort Wayne, you're doing that in Indy. I'm sure you did it everywhere else you've been. Tim, you're fantastic at doing that.
Well, I appreciate it. You got to remember, we all came from the same, right? We all grew up as these little kids wanting to be involved in whatever it was, whether it was the music industry or the sports industry or whatever. And just, give back. Remember where you came from. Be humble and give back. And I try to do that.
Awesome.
Well, Tim, you gave me a opportunity. I am a very avid sports fan, and I got to work in professional sports, even though I was in no way, shape, or form physically cut out to play in basketball. Right. I am 5'4" and can't shoot. As my little league basketball coach said, you are a center and a forward's body. And but you gave.
That's hilarious.
I was always told in middle school and high school that like I had no right, I would never be anywhere near sports, and I have signed more contracts with professional teams because of what I've done, and you gave me the opportunity to really like dig into that and do what I've done. So I thank you. I'm sure I speak for Colin and Dylan as well.
Yes, sir.
Love it.
So
alrighty.
All right. We are running out of time, but Tim, real quick, I'm gonna let everybody tell their favorite Mad Ant story, and then at the end, I would like to hear like any final words you have. So, Dylan, let's start with you.
Put me on the spot, why don't you? Okay. Let's think. I don't even know. There's so many. Golly, I think that first game that I was a part of, even though we were up in the nosebleeds where we were that first game, for some reason it was definitely coming from being in pep band and stuff in college, having a couple years off of any type of drumming and that atmosphere, and coming to be able to do that again and getting paid to do it and yell at basket. Like, come on. Like, it's an awesome gig for anybody, right? So that first game, for sure. I think that's going to be my best memory, for sure.
Ryan?
Oh, just going to a couple games a year was fun. I've never really, I was never really a big, basketball fan. Just a lot of, hockey, baseball. I was a wrestling coach for 11 years, so obviously, didn't really have a lot of time to get to basketball games. But just going to the games were fun. It was something to do with the family, and it was. Even not knowing basketball really well, it was just a fun time.
Alan?
Oh boy. Obviously I'm gonna go back to what Ellen said. Like the first game, even though we were up in the nosebleeds, it was a cool feeling wearing Mad Ants gear and just being, you're a part of the team. And the other aspect that I like is your guys' specialty jersey nights were just awesome because it raised money for the community. And I was able to be a part of that and put a couple bids down on jerseys, and I actually got them. And then you also let me meet the players that I got the jersey from too, so that was cool as well.
Well, mine, I will say it'll boil down to couple times being able to, from that first day of walking in after we had started the drum line and being Tim, you just kind of handed me the keys to this brainchild that I had, and we're just like, here you go, you have full reign, and as long as you follow the NBA rule book and we stay within budget, here you go. You gave me the keys and let me live out. So I had wanted to start a drum line for the Mad Ants since I did the Colts drum line and watched High Octane start theirs for the Pacers, and giving me the ability to do that and the access that I had. And then that boiling down to my last game at the Coliseum, which we didn't know because of the move. But I walked up to Chris Taylor to hand. We had custom drumsticks made for that last season, and people still can't believe we had those. People are blown away by the fact that we had custom drumsticks. And I walked up to Chris Taylor with a pile of them to hand to a couple of players that really interacted with us and Coach Jenkins. And he goes, "You have locker room access. Go in and tell them, or give them to him yourself." And going, "I what?" I had unfeathered access, but I always was like, I don't go in the locker room. And Chris going, "You have locker room access. Everybody knows you. You can go in and go, just do that." And walking into the locker room and the players looking at me like, "Oh, hey, look, it's the drummer." "Hey, what up, drummer man?" And just thanking me for what we did. And and that brings it back down to minor league sports. The staff is a complete family. From basketball operations to game day operations to the entertainment groups to you in the front office. It's I don't know how many of the front office staff I still talk to. Ryan Stevens and Dan Vance, which were both PR managers for us, I still talk to on a regular basis. Our mascot I still talk to on a regular basis. Tim, you and I text every now and then. I wish I could see you now. Our former assistant, our vice president, Buck Rogers, still talk to him. Saw Allie Lane, you remember Allie, saw her parents in line to vote and recognized them and said something to them after we had voted. And it's just a small knit community. And I can't thank you enough for inviting us in to be a part of that.
Well, you guys summed it up perfectly. That's what we're in the memory making business. And although you guys were employees, you still have memories from that. And, we were able to create some cool experiences for you. And, we're going to do the same in Noblesville. So for those of you that are listening, come down and see us in Noblesville. We tip it off in November of 2025. We'll be known as the Noblesville. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we'll come out.
Come on,
have
Tim.
A brand new,
We almost had
new
it.
colors, and it'll be a lot of fun. It'll still be the same entertainment, but under a new name. So I appreciate everything you guys did. Thanks for having me on the show, and you guys be good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, that's it for tonight's episode. Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you again. You're a great friend, and this won't be the last time we invite you on the podcast.
No.
So if you want to come back on and announce what the new name is, we are more than happy to let you break that news on here. But in the meantime, we want to say goodnight. Thank you for listening. Colin, what do you say?
Do the music.
See you guys. Thanks, man.
See ya.
Yeah, thank you.